We all want to experience awakenings, that sense and that feeling of renewal, new perspective, new beginning. When spring comes around, it seems like awakening's not that far off, but a lot of times we forget actually what awakening feels like. The truth is that you're probably already having an awakening this spring. Let's just look at the signs. I'm Asia Suler of One Willow Apothecaries, and these are the telltale signs that you're actually in the midst of an awakening. Sometimes I find it's helpful to look at the seasons that we're inhabiting to really understand the way in which our inner rhythms work. So when it comes to awakenings, there's no better time to look at than spring. So let's look at some of the signs that you're experiencing an awakening. The first sign is that you're having new lows. So a lot of times we hear this word awakening, we think it's going to be all like flash and banner and excitement and flowers. But if we actually look at the way spring works, you kind of hit an all-time low before spring really comes into gear. So oftentimes the hardest days of winter are those last days of winter that are transitioning into spring. This is when you get those last snowstorms. It's when those last cold snaps come in. Maybe you get a couple blossoms on a branch and then you get another freeze. So I think it's important to keep this in mind when we're thinking about awakenings, because really sometimes when we experience things like depression, despondency, a new low, what we're actually tuning into is this energy of the first burst of spring, this energy of the fact that awakenings can actually come out of these low spaces. So if you are transitioning into the season and you're feeling that sense of heaviness, almost like cabin fever hitting a pitch, then this might be that you're actually just about to burst into your awakening. Speaking of cabin fever, you might also be feeling some sense of restlessness or numbness. And these are signs that you've actually outgrown your life. You've outgrown the small boxes that you've been in, and you're getting this restlessness because you're ready for something new. So when you start to feel that sense of constriction, it can be really beneficial to not just default into the state of thinking that something's wrong with your life or you have to forcibly change something, but recognizing that you're feeling that because your spirit is already opening up to this change and this awakening. The next sign is that you might be seesawing back and forth between the newness and the oldness. Now, this is a classic sign of spring awakening, right? Spring is fickle. One day it'll be warm and beautiful and the flowers will be out, and the next day it'll be cold again, and we're going to wonder if it might not be winter forever. So if you are seesawing back and forth between these states of feeling like freshness is really coming into your life and then feeling like everything's always going to be the same as it always was, know that this itself is a sign of an awakening. I love thinking about the definition of a revelation. If we break it down, a revelation literally means to reveal. So we know we've had a revelation when that veil comes back down over what we perceived. The gateway opens up, we see something new and different that changes our perspective and our lives, and then the veil comes back down and it seems as if we've returned to our normal lives. But really, we're changed just from that glimpse. So think about this seesawing back and forth, these fickle days of spring, whether that's inner spring or outer spring, as these revelations that are coming to show you these glimpses. So awakenings are literally like waking up to glimpse something and then going back to sleep. That's how they work. Awakenings lead to being awake to a new level or perception or awareness of ourselves. So know that when you have these flashes and it seems like you're defaulting to old patterns, this isn't a negative thing. It's actually just indicative that you are awakening. The third sign is that you may have stuff that comes up to be healed. So we all know this dance of spring. the things that you put on hold from the fall or that you didn't have time to do or was too cold to do outside in the winter suddenly come back onto your to-do list in the spring, and you know it's time to get this stuff done. Whether that's fixing the roof or the potholes in the driveway or digging in perennials into the garden. So a lot of times when we're experiencing an awakening, we're actually going to have stuff come up that's residual and ready to really be released, healed, or tended to. Sometimes when we have these things come up that need healing, we think that we're just defective or that this is actually preventing us from awakening. But the truth is that these things are coming up so you can embrace the full awakening that spring has to offer. And it can be a joy to tend to these things that maybe we didn't have the time, space, or energy to tend to when we were in the winter of our seasons or of our awareness. Lastly, the first sign of awakening is not necessarily that something's blooming, but that something's dropping away. If you actually look at the way spring happens, before the flowers come out, there's going to be the old guard that dissipates, whether that's compost settling into the ground or the old leaves finally falling off the tree. The discarding of the old has to come before the new blooming. So if you find that you're going through a process of shedding, whether that's coming up against conflicting belief patterns or shedding an old relationship or feeling the need to move or change something in your life, know that this is actually a predecessor of the blooms. And oftentimes we have to do this work before the flowers and the awakening can come through. And early spring is a time in which this stuff is going to come up because there's so much ready to flower for us. So remember that spring always happens on its own time. Every year I keep a bloom journal of when certain flowers bloom in my garden, and it's different every single year. So know this for yourself too, that your awakening will happen on your time frame, your schedule, and it's always unfolding perfectly. So just embrace the sweetness and the perfection of that timing. And just like spring itself, know that you don't need to rush the flowering. It happens naturally and organically on its own. All you have to do is show up for the seasons and the weather whims of your feelings and inner movements as they're happening, and the rest will unfold perfectly. And keep your eyes peeled for those first tiny insights of clarity, like those first crocus bulbs coming up in spring. You're going to get these flashes, these twinkles that are giving you a glimpse of the kind of clarity that's going to come in the future. Awakenings aren't about having clarity now. It's about realizing that there's actually a bigger landscape to look at than you previously thought was possible for yourself. The clarity will come later. For now, just notice where those little insights are coming in and move towards them. Try sinking into your body and let your body lead the way. What feels good to lean into? What feels textured? Just like the body of the earth knows when it's the right time to start blooming, your body knows this too. Trust yourself. So if you're having this feeling sense of an awakening underfoot, like something is ready to shift or change in your life, and you know that it's actually connected to your ability to be in a relationship with the world around you, then I invite you to come join me for Intuitive Plant Medicine. In this 8-week online course, we talk about innate tools for helping you develop a direct relationship with the living world and the plants that are already coming to speak to you. We don't have to go this awakening experience or any experience in our life alone. In fact, the plants are here to help support us. If you want to drop into truly transformative life experiences, asking for the plant's help will open untold gateways of newness and expansion. In the course, we cover core intuition practices for opening up your direct connection to the land. We also talk about medicine making, flower essences, on-the-body treatments, how to do journey work, and different meditative forms of channeling and connecting to the plants, as well as doing work with whole landscapes as well. If you're getting this feeling like it's the right thing for you and you know you're ready to step into this awakening, an awakening guided by the natural world, then come join me. Details about registration for the course are here below. I would love to see you there.